Hello, my name is Alexander LaFontaine. I'll be going over presentation for my first sport analysis on rugby. So just to talk a little bit about the overview and the rules, it's a contact sport between two teams consisting of 15 people on each side. It is a sport that's been featured in the Olympics since the early 1900s. It consists of two 40-minute halves for a total game time of 80 minutes. This is not necessarily including the amount of breaks that will be in between. And to be able to score points, a ball must either be advanced past the opponent's goal line or kicked through their goal post. And the ball can only pass sideways or backwards, no blocking allowed. And the only way to advance the ball forward is by kicking it and then regaining possession of the ball. So when it comes to rugby, the main thing we need to understand is that there's two categories of positions, forwards and backs. The specific names, I'll go into the names of them now. It's prop, tight head and loose head, hooker, two locks, two flankers, blind side, open side, and number 8 for the forwards. All the backs are scrum half, fly half, two wings, two centers, and a fullback. Now, broken down into specific positions, it's not as important when it comes to the forwards and the backs. It's more like all the forwards do similar things biomechanically as well as what they're doing in the game, and the backs they do more or less around, they follow the same pattern of what they do and what their relevance is, during a match. So just looking at a few of the physical demands, total distance covered for forwards around 6,400 meters, while for backs is 7,000. So the backs are definitely going a lot more distance during games, while their average speed is 7.4 versus forwards at 6.8. So they also are going a lot faster. Backs tend to have to cover more distance in games versus the forwards, so them having a lot faster acceleration and max velocity is very crucial. And as you can even see, the difference between forwards and backs for max velocity is almost 4 to 5 kilometers per hour, which is huge. In terms of impacts, since rugby is a contact type sport, there are tackling and there is going to be impacts. And, looking at minor impacts around 1 to 2 Gs to even severe, which would be essentially you tackling someone or you getting tackled and going to the ground. We look at, an average of 10 severe impacts for forwards, 13 for the backs. Total body load about 1486 for the forwards and 952 for the backs. And then average total body load at that severe 10 grams or higher is about 117.4 for the forwards and then 30 for the backs. So there's a lot more tackling involved with the backs. And you can, assume that because higher velocity, they're going to be running faster, getting somewhere quicker, and essentially more force is going to be coming behind them. Then we have in terms of tackles made and tackles defended. For forwards, 10 tackles made, 5 tackles against, while the backs is more tackles being made, while them defending against less tackles. And then we're looking now at different speed zones. 13 to 18 would be more on the slower side versus all the way to 24 to 36, which would be at, the max velocity sprinting. We have about 5 seconds for forwards in the 13 to 18, about 1 second in 18 to 24, and 0.02 seconds in the highest speed zone, while for backs is about 4.34 in the 13 to 18, 1.32 18 to 24, and then from the 24 to 36, 0.15. So we're looking at closer to almost 8 times the amount that the backs are essentially either accelerating extremely quickly or reaching max velocity. And then now we look at the distance covered for forwards at, again, that high speed, the highest around 400 meters, while the backs 537, with the peak speed of the forwards at 24 and for the backs at 28. And then the average number of sprints we see for forwards 0.43, while the average number of sprints for the backs 2.2. So 4 times the amount, maybe close to even 5 times the amount that they're sprinting. Number of accelerations around the same, 19.1, but then there's a difference of around two decelerations from the forwards versus the backs. Now we look at the bioenergetics. Since there's a lot of sprinting involved and acceleration and a lot of going back and forth in a very extreme amount of speed and even power, because there is, again, a lot of tackling that involves a lot of force production in a short period of time. The phosphagen system is definitely one of the more crucial things that need to be trained, especially for their repeated sprint abilities. And even again, if you're sprinting and reaching close to top speed, and then you need to tackle someone, that's also a lot more power that you're going to need. So there's going to be a lot of need in training the phosphagen system. Though most of the time spent is walking or jogging with bursts of sprints or tackles of around 25 to 75% difference, it's still crucial that we're training the phosphagen system as well as the oxidative system so that they're able to replenish that CP and even any ATP that was used. Those high intensity moments, they need to have that good high VO2 so that they're able to stay not only at a good level, buffering any fatigue and lactate being grown from a glycolysis, but they're able to stay at a level where, they can continue playing and they're able to produce that speed or power when it's necessary. So again, training the phosphocreatine system with long rest is important. Training the oxidative system to be able to resynthesize the CP during those low intensity times, which again, around 75% of a match is at that time, so it's important. And then I think it's also crucial to familiarize the players with the impacts with tackling drills. As we saw, players are bound to get tackled at some point, and being more accustomed than less accustomed, I'd say, is very important and necessary, because there is a lot of stress that's happening during the moment. If you're not used to getting hit, it can feel a lot harder than when you are accustomed, as well as when you have to make a tackle, you're going to be more confident the more times you do it. So familiarizing and getting yourself accustomed to where you don't really feel too different at tackling or being tackled is going to be very crucial for performance and success. Again, training acceleration, deceleration, there is a lot of change in direction. The ball can only go left or right or behind you, so there's going to be a lot of changing, going to the front, going to the side, some type of sidestepping. Even when, let's say, you're trying to avoid getting tackled, you may have to do a quick burst to the left, do a little bit of change of direction. It all depends on what's happening. So training also max velocity with change of direction is important. Improving the lower body speed and force production, and even upper body speed and force production, because when you tackle, you need to be able to hold on, as well as you need to be able to produce a lot of power pushing wise, that you're able to take the opponent down. Now, in terms of injuries, we're looking at around 91 injuries per 1,000 hours. And if we want to look even to more detail, that's around 12 concussions per 1,000 hours. So though it's not the most common, it is bound to happen when you're playing a sport that has a lot of impact required. Around 8,800 injuries and around 101,000 hours of game time. Days missed on average can range between 8 to 27 days, depending on the severity of the injury. And looking at the concussions again, it's around 1,300 concussions per 100,000 hours, so it's pretty high up there. Now, in terms of anatomical locations, we're looking at 16, almost 17% of the head being the main area getting hit, around 13% by the knee, and then the shoulder around 12%, with injuries from making a tackle being around 23%, while being tackled close to 23%, and then injuries from collisions overall around 14%. Now, in terms of different types of workouts, we're looking at a study by Zabaloy that it showed that rugby players typically reach max velocity between 30 to 40 meters. So having them sprint for around that distance and even more at a high rate at max velocity is going to be very important for them, not only to reach it or have enough time to reach it, but to be able to sustain it as well. So the purpose of this training, a linear max velocity sprint, to increase max velocity while working on improving acceleration. We're increasing the intensity and distance to get the players accustomed to the max velocity before engaging in that activity. So we have 2 by 30 meters, about 70% sprint for the 30s, rest 1 to 10 rest ratio, then 2 by 40 meters, you're going a little faster and a little more distance, around the same rest, 1 to 10, and then you go 4 by 50 meters at 100% for the entire 50, but we are increasing the rest dramatically so that they have enough of 1 to 40 with a total volume of 340 meters for training. Now, for the same type of thing, but with the conditioning, with the purpose to increase metabolic threshold with the max velocity sprints and essentially decreasing rest times to improve repeated sprint abilities, 2 by 50, 150 meters It's 100%, but it's a lower rest, 1 to 10, then 2 by 50 again with a little higher rest, 1 to 20, then 2 by 50, but again 1 to 30. So total volume 300 meters. So essentially why we're increasing the rest ratio is as you are going at max velocity, you're going to get tired and you're not going to have the energy. So increasing the amount of rest there is going to help to at least get to a level where the metabolic fatigue is not going to be too high, but you're able to still perform at that max intensity, which is what we're aiming for. Then looking at multi-directional max velocity with the purpose to improve deceleration and acceleration while changing directions. The rationale is we want to shorten distance as players get accustomed to promote faster change of direction. A study by Freitas showed that faster rugby players are less efficient at changing directions and essentially tolerating higher approach velocity and change of direction maneuvers. Essentially meaning just because you are the fastest in a linear sprint does not mean that you're going to be that effective when it comes to changing direction, as well as being able to decelerate at such a high velocity, as well as even be able to accelerate in such a short period of time. So then we have 2 by the 5 by 10 by 5 alternating, going to the left and the right. We sprint 5 meters, touch the floor, change direction, 180 to sprint 10, change direction, sprint 5. Essentially, every time you change direction, it will be changing to the left and then changing to the right. Rest of 1 to 20. Then we're going to shorten that. So essentially, shorter period, shorter distance. So the change of velocity of direction needs to be a lot quicker. 2 by 5, 5, 5. Same thing, alternating. You go 5 meters, then change 5, then change 5 with the same 1 to 20 rest ratio. Then we introduce the L drill, going the left and the right. We sprint 5 meters, change direction by 180 degrees, sprint 5, change direction again, sprint 5, change direction to doing a 90-degree cut around the cone. Then you sprint, touch, sprint 5, sprinting 5, change direction around the cone again with the 5, and then you change a 90-degree angle, coming down all the way with about a 1 to 30 rest ratio. So total volume is 1 to 30. It's not as much as the other days, but there is an emphasis on the change of direction being very quick. That's why there's only 2 of each exercise. Then multi-directional conditioning, which is improved change of direction speed with increased fatigue accumulation, shortening the rest time to get the players accustomed to the build-up. So we just got 5 by 10 by 5. This time we have 1 to 10 rest ratio and 2 by the L drills with a 1 to 15. So lower volume, but a lot shorter rest period. Now key takeaways when it comes to rugby. There's a need to improve on the max speed for the sprinting ability, as well as repeated sprint ability. Improve change of direction for both being able to tackle and avoiding a tackle. Improve acceleration, deceleration for faster change of direction. Improve the lower body force production for essentially faster sprints and acceleration. Improve upper body force for faster tackles and hold-ons opponents. So essentially being able to grab opponents, hold on to them, as well as being able to produce enough force in the upper body where you can smoothly transition from when you grab, essentially make contact, to where you're bringing them to the ground. Then tackling drills to familiarize the impact loads and lessen the stress and the fatigue. We want to improve the aerobic system so that it's able to resynthesize CP during the downtime. Again, 75% of a match is in a light jog, walking type movement. And then we want to improve the fostering system to increase the amount and intensity of the explosive movements. And then we have a little quiz. How many players on each team? As well as name 1 forward and 1 back position. Again, there's around 8 forwards and 7 back positions, just 1 of each. Now, which group of players spend more time in the high speed zone? So is it the forwards or the backs? And what is the ratio of low speed to high speed zone time? So again, what is that percentage that we're looking for from just walking versus all out sprinting? And then true or false, the ball can only be passed forward. Which is the most common location for injuries? How many injuries on average per 1,000 hours? And how many concussions on average per 1,000 hours?